Hello and welcome to the podcast. My name is Casper Stockham. Welcome to Mastering Adam. This is our third broadcast for the show, and we got several lined up for the show. And I have a great guest with me today. I'm going to introduce you to him in just a moment. Let's see. One of my things, I apologize. I got a lot of stuff popping up on my screen. Before we get started, I wanted to tell you about our sponsor to the show, which is I Am Love Builders. And we have a new book that just came out literally yesterday. And it's called Divorce Proofing Your Marriage. You can get that on Amazon. You can also get the Kindle version. And they have a special promotion running on the Kindle version. You can actually get it for free. So check that out. But it's on Amazon.com. And we're excited about that book and excited to be able to bring that to the folks and help them with their marriage situation. All right. So today's topic is going to be the essentials of a good marriage partnership. But before we get into the topic, I want to introduce you to my guest, Mark Prasik. We call him Coach, and he's a longtime friend of mine and a founder of PJ Net TV. And Mark, welcome to the show, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you, Casper. It's great to be, we've kind of turned the tables. You and I have been doing this kind of thing for a long time, but it's usually been the other way around. But thank you for I consider it an honor. And I applaud you, Casper, for what you're doing, what you and your wife, Cheryl, are doing to build better relationships. I believe that most marriages are in disrepair.
Yes.
And I think that we've accepted it. I think that we just continue the way things are because we're afraid to make the changes that need to be made. But marriage was intended to be almost a romantic bliss that should last a lifetime, but it's also it's a measure of commitment and sacrifice.
It is. It's a huge sacrifice, and it's something that we definitely should take seriously. I think a lot of times today's society, we don't take our marriage vows seriously at all. And I have to confess that I've been unfortunately married a few times and finally am in a long-lasting, solid relationship. However, I didn't take my vows in the past seriously. And I think that caused a lot of problems, and that's part of the reason why we want to do this broadcast is to kind of delve into those things. And today's topic is the essence of a good marriage partnership. So we're going to be talking about Adam and Eve, and it's a biblical Adam and Eve, obviously, and kind of what happened, kind of how it kind of started and kind of fell off the rails pretty quickly. And I was thinking about this. I was talking to a gentleman that I met online just literally yesterday, and we had a great conversation. And I was saying that Adam made some mistakes, obviously, and after the fall, he lived for 900 plus years. So what did he do during that 900 years? I mean, did he not sit around after the fall and talk to his kids and say, look, guys, this is where we came from, right? This is where we should be trying to get back to, whatever you can do to get back into the garden, do it. And I think Abel, and I'm speculating, obviously, but I think Abel took some of those lessons to heart, and Cain didn't quite understand what was going on. But a good friend of mine not a good friend of mine, this guy I was talking to, he said, Cain might have been mad at Adam because of what they lost. They could have been in the garden. And he's like, you screwed it up, dude. So why should I listen to you? You don't even know what you're talking about. You're the one that screwed it up. What do you think?
Well, remember that question, or help me remember it. Before I answer that, I want to applaud you for your book, and you and your wife, Cheryl, because you kind of mentioned in passing, that you didn't take your vows seriously in your first relationships. Well, Casper, that actually gives you an advantage and some insights, because not only does this book tell you what to do, it comes from you who I guess you could include a few chapters on what not to do.
Yeah.
And I say that as a compliment because so many of the experts from the pulpit, are expressing the ideals, and they are doing that correctly.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard to identify with them because they haven't been through some of the things that their congregation has.
Yeah.
They perhaps most of the time have never experienced infidelity. They've never experienced divorce.
Yeah.
There's so many things. So I just applaud you and your wife for what you're doing. You also mentioned that perhaps Cain was, angry.
Yes.
At Adam for blood. Well, haven't we all had those thoughts?
Yes.
I mean, it was literally not even one generation before we blew it.
Yeah.
But to ease the anger, I would say this: if Adam and Eve wouldn't have done it, I'm sure that someone else would have between then and now. Right. So it's sad that they fell so quickly, but the fall was imminent, I think. And your question had to do with, remind me of the question again, because I want to answer it concisely.
Well, I was saying that Adam should have been like the main cheerleader on helping people get back to the connection with God, getting back into the garden, getting back into alignment. He should have been like the Tony Robbins of the day and say, look, here's what we lost, guys. We can do it. We can do it. I messed up, but that's all right. We're going to get this right. We're going to get it together. And I was telling the guy this, and he was saying, no. He said, yes, that is a possibility. He said, but however, think about this from Cain's perspective. So you're telling me that I didn't have to sweat to do what I'm doing, because I'm in the garden sweating, trying to get these vegetables grown so I can give a tenth of it, to the guy you screwed up with. Right?
Yeah.
And Cain was like, man, this sucks. This could have been a lot better. No thorns and thistles, no sweat, just throw a seed in the ground and boom, it pops up with some fruit. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting to note that from the very instant that the fall occurred, there's 2 points here. First of all, if you read the text, Eve ate and then gave some of the fruit to Adam, who was there with her. Yeah. We may get into more of that later. He was there the whole time. It was after Adam ate that their eyes were opened and Correct. They discovered that they were naked.
Correct.
In other words, they were married. They were one flesh. Yes. God treated them as one.
Yes.
Okay. But immediately, now God could have said, you blew it, I'm done with you, and that would have been the end of it. But the very first thing that God did was provide them a covering. And it was by the shedding of blood. Something had to die.
Yeah.
So God, even though Adam blew it, the first thing God did was provide a path of reconciliation and restoration.
That's correct. But a lot happened before that. For example, you just mentioned that Eve ate of the fruit. Well, first of all, she grabbed it. She's looking at it. It looks pleasing to the eye and all the other stuff. And she ate it. But to your point, that didn't cause the fall. It didn't fall until after Adam ate it. Mm-hmm. So he could have stopped it and said, no, we're not eating this. And it wouldn't have been a fall.
I'll see your bet and raise you one. He could have stopped it because notice that, picture the scene that Eve is approaching the tree. It says Adam is there with her. Right. It says so. So Adam is walking along with Eve, and we all blame Eve for the fall. Well, or she committed the first sin.
Yeah.
Well, she did, but not the way you think. Here's what she did. The serpent said, did God really say, Eve's reply was, that's correct. God said that we cannot eat it, nor shall we touch it. Oh, whoop, 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 whoop. God didn't say you couldn't touch it.
You couldn't touch it.
She added to God's word.
Right.
That was a lie.
Right.
That was not true. So, all right.
They gave the devil the end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so Adam is there with Eve, and they are walking toward the tree. Now, Eve is under this sort of hypnotic spell of sorts, where the serpent is got her mesmerized, and the tree becomes attractive. They probably knew it. Well, certainly knew of the tree. They perhaps had looked at it, but they didn't see it as attractive.
Right.
Until the serpent mesmerized Eve, his cunning. Well, Adam's right there. So what kind of man is Adam that's walking in lockstep with Eve toward the tree? He's standing right there. Yeah. Eve reaches up, grabs the fruit.
He could have stopped
Adam, he could have stopped it. Not only could he have stopped it, he had a responsibility to stop it.
And that's my point, is that I don't blame Eve at all. I blame Adam for the whole situation, because the fall didn't happen until after he ate it. He could have stopped at any time if he was in proximity, which according to the Bible, it sure seems that way. And there's a lot that we don't know. We're kind of speculating on this. But think about this for a second. The conversation with Eve and the serpent doesn't seem like a conversation that started just at that time, because I don't just walk up to you and say, did your wife really say that? There had to be something before that, right? There had to be a conversation going on to where they're talking and stuff. And then Satan comes back around and says, did God really say that?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's speculation, but it's interesting speculation. And one of the things that I've learned, and a lot of what I've learned about this encounter, this whole marriage thing, was through the teaching of Dr. Tony Evans.
Mm-hmm.
And he pointed out some things to me that I was familiar with the text, but I just never thought about it. And he revealed the truth. But as soon as God appeared on the scene,
mm-hmm.
Who did he call for?
He called for the man. He called for Adam.
He called for Adam.
Mm-hmm.
That tells me, or that tells us, that Adam, the husband, is the spiritual quarterback
mm-hmm.
on the marriage team.
You got you.
The captain. When the referee throws a flag, they don't take a poll of the team to find out what to do. They call for a captain to make that decision.
Yeah.
So God called Adam into account. Now we're Adam bashing today. We've already pointed out or brought up the point that Adam wasn't merely just there. He wasn't just complicit. He was an integral part of the fall. So as soon as God shows up, what does Adam, when God challenges or confronts, I should say,
mm-hmm.
Adam, what does Adam do? He hides behind the skirt of his wife.
He said, hey, it was that woman that you made.
That woman you gave me. Yeah.
You gave me. Yeah. Now, and I talked about this on a past podcast, but when God makes a woman and she's naked with you and he made her, she has to be a pretty awesome woman, right? So Adam was doomed from the start, right? It's like, hey, this naked woman you gave me, hand me this fruit, and I'm not supposed to take it. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah. Well, it's sort of like when your wife makes dinner. You better like it. You better.
Yeah.
Well, actually, if you study the actual words that were used when God created Adam, there was a different word used.
Correct.
Than when God created Eve. God actually, I guess the best way to say it would be fashioned.
Fashioned to form. Yeah. Yes.
Formed. He spent some time and he put some curves in there and polished off the edges and did a lot. So men, when you see a woman's silhouette,
mm-hmm.
it's attractive. And when you say, man, is she built? Well, actually, you are scripturally correct.
Yeah, absolutely. And he put a womb in her and made her a wombed man, a woman,
Mm-hmm.
and she's the only woman that exists. Just saying.
Well,
Man has not been able to recreate any of that.
you've probably heard the story about, you know, the conversation that God and Adam had. You know, God says, "Hey man, I want to bring you a wife," you know, and well, what's that? He says, "Well, you know, it's gonna be great. You know, she's gonna do all these things, and she's gonna be beautiful, and you know, and God, Adam said, well, this sounds great, man. I can't wait. Well, how much is this going to cost me?" And God said, "An arm and a leg." Adam said, "Well, what do you have for just a rib?"
Yep. We put it together for sure. Hey, there's a couple things I wanted to touch on. One of them is the importance of equality, and that term takes on crazy meanings today. You know, with all the
Mm-hmm.
equality and all
Mm-hmm.
women's rights, all that stuff. But at the time, before the fall, were Adam and Eve equal?
Well, we've already kind of broached this subject when we said they were both complicit in the
Mm-hmm.
fall,
Mm-hmm.
and that, you know, their eyes were only opened when both of them, you know, so that sort of implies some parity at the very
Right.
least.
Right.
But yes, they are in fact equal. But this has in the past been used as proof text. You know, that you know that Eve would be a helpmeet
Yeah.
to Adam.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like she's some sort of servant, some sort of
Right.
slave, and she's
Right.
subjugated.
Right.
All right. Well, men, first of all, if God provided Eve as a helpmeet, that presupposes that Adam needed help. So we're not as good as we think we are, men.
No.
You know, we do need help.
And he needed help, and he needed to be doing something to deserve the help. In other words, if he's just sitting around, there's nothing for her to help.
Well, first thing God did was like give Adam a job.
Exactly.
You know, name the animals. And I can't, you know, I want to get to heaven, and I got some questions, you know, like where did Adam come up with some of these names? Okay, like Aardvark. Aardvark. Really? That where did that sounds like you that sounds like speaking in tongues almost, you know. Or let me see. I guess he must have been really tired when he said anteater.
Yeah,
that's not a name.
Yeah, this creature's eating ants, so he just call him anteater.
Call him an anteater. But to your point, you know, are they equal? Absolutely equal. But that doesn't mean that the roles are identical. There's a division of labor, folks, in every organization. Every organization has a division of labor, and it has a hierarchy. So, but actually there's multiple hierarchies. You know, the man, the husband, is the spiritual leader of the family.
Mm-hmm.
But God also gave roles for the wife.
Correct.
Okay, so it's like a quarterback on a team. There is a quarterback. That quarterback is equal to the other 10 players on the field.
Yeah.
But he is the quarterback. He calls the plays.
Yeah. In fact, I have an image that I showed last podcast of the structure similar to what you're talking about, the different roles and the different covering structure.
Well, let me amplify that. Casper, who named Adam? Who gave Adam his name? Did Adam give Adam his name? No, God
did.
God named Adam.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when Eve came along, did God name Eve?
Adam
no.
Named Eve.
Adam named Eve. Okay. Now, God gave dominion to mankind, humans, his you know, dominion over the animals. So who named the animals?
Yes.
Folks, how do you make it more clear? The giving of a name. Who names your children?
Right.
Well, the parents.
Parents, yeah.
Okay. Now that graphic that you showed, it fits exactly. The giving of a name implies authority and covering over that which you give a name to. Correct. And to this day, and when I see hyphenated last names when women get married, folks, that they probably don't know, but the wife takes the name of the husband as that is a symbol that of the authority, the covering. I don't want, let's quit using authority. Let's say covering. Because covering implies responsibility.
Correct.
Authority doesn't necessarily reflect that as well.
Yeah.
And your graphic shows the umbrellas. Those are coverings.
Right.
So men, we are equal. Husbands, we are equal to wives. Right. Even though we are called upon to be the spiritual leader in the marriage.
Correct.
But that does not mean that we can boss around and subjugate our equal partners. They're equal members of the team.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you on the hyphenated name. Now, my wife, when we got married 20 years ago, she was already heavily involved in the church and speaking and things like that. So she took a hyphenated name. She had Cheryl Guffin Stockham, and she has since apologized to me for doing that because of some of the teachings that you're talking about, and learning about the not the proper alignment, if you will, or the covering. So she's apologized for that. But yes, she's one of those women who did that.
Yeah, well, I think it's there's a difference or a distinction that I'd like to make. A hyphenated name rebels against the authority, but to use your maiden name as a middle name has utility. So take the hyphen out. That's all. Just take the hyphen out.
Yeah. I got you. Well, we're obviously, we could talk for hours about this topic and any other topic as we normally do every week on PJNet TV when I'm on there. Had a couple quick statements. So want to get your take on Adam should have taken charge of the situation. Do you agree with that?
Yes, we went over that earlier. I think Adam is not merely a bystander. He's an active participant, complicit in the crime.
Okay. Adam should not have blamed Eve.
He's a coward.
Yeah. Adam should have taught his children better. He lived 900 plus years. He should have had some, and obviously the Bible doesn't say anything about Adam really, other than that he had more sons and daughters and stuff. But, there should have been some words from Adam to his children and to his generations.
I don't know that he didn't tell them, and I'm very hesitant, and I've heard people speak publicly, and it sounds good, that if you want to know the character of a husband, look at the children. Well, I disagree with that, because I personally know good husbands that did everything right. That they have two children, they were raised the same way. One went left, one went right. So give a pause when you say, well, their kids did this, that, and the other. That doesn't mean they didn't teach them right.
Right.
Or put it this way. If you accept the notion that the offspring are reflective of the defects of the parent, then you would have to say that God is defective.
Right. Yeah. I've taught many young youth in the inner cities how to discover their purpose and things like that, and I have found that now I think it's safe to say that the majority of children kind of follow along with their parents, but you can have a totally broken, drug riddled home and have a child come out of that that's an A student and goes on to college and does all kinds of things. But the better environment is the father and mother in the home, stable with income and really paying attention to their children's upbringing, right? That's the best situation. And
put it this way, Casper, when I stand before God, I'm certain that God will not hold me into account for my daughter's bad decisions.
Right.
What he will hold me into account is, did you teach her in the admonition of the Lord?
Exactly.
And by the way, folks, yes, that is the job of the parents, but it doesn't stop there. It is the job of believers, all of us as brothers and sisters in Christ, as the body of Christ, as the church. We need to come alongside parents and support them and support each other. And that's kind of missing. I really admire, I like the idea that many churches have of the baby dedication. Do you have those, Casper?
Yes.
Where, it's kind of a ritual. It's a tradition. Sure. There is no salvation implied in it.
Correct.
Okay. But it's a commitment from the parents. But as soon as they get that commitment from the parents to raise this child in the admonition of the Lord, the pastor then will turn to the congregation and say, stand.
Right.
And partner, if you pledge, if you commit, if you covenant, we could go into covenant, to come alongside other parents.
Yes.
And I think we all can do a better job there.
Absolutely.
Rather than shoot our wounded and blame them because their kids are drug addicts or prostitutes or whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I did a similar thing when I came out there to South Carolina, because my great grandson was born. He's like 7 months old now. And I did a little mini
dedication
to him, just to kind of get things rolling. Now, his mother and his grandmother and myself, we need to still be heavily involved in his life. His father, unfortunately, is in and out, right? One of those situations, not the best situation, but I'm determined to make sure that young man does not grow up without the love and support he needs from, from myself and others. So
we just have to do our job.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to hold account.
Yeah. And we only have a couple minutes left, and there was a question that came in. And by the way, folks, if you're watching the podcast, you can send your question in live on Facebook, and we can get your questions answered potentially on the show. But we had a question that came in. Do I, as a husband, need to tell my wife about every female I talk to?
No.
Okay.
God did not forbid us to have a conversation with anybody.
Correct.
Outside of the marriage.
Correct. And I would agree with that. Now, there are some conversations that you should tell your wife about.
Well, I should say it kind of depends on the conversation, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. Because there's some kind, like, for example, I have exes, right? So if I have a conversation with an ex, I think that's a conversation. That's something I should tell my wife about. Right.
Well, and that conversation probably needs to be in the context of parenting.
Right.
You're still co-parenting. I don't have time to put it in the chat, but I have a question. Did Adam and Eve have belly buttons?
I have no idea. I would doubt it because they weren't formed in the womb. Neither one of them were formed in the womb, so they probably did not have belly buttons.
Good answer. We'll go with that.
All right. Any final thoughts, Coach, before we chime out for the day?
Casper, I applaud what you're doing here. So many people do nothing, but ever since I've known you, you've been an active servant participating in the work of the kingdom, and I just applaud you for what you're doing here.
Well, thank you, and you as well. We connected up a couple of years ago when you launched PJNet TV, and I've been an active participant in that. With the show Casper's Take every Monday evening, and we've managed to meet almost every Monday. I think we only missed maybe 4 or 5.
And I don't think it's that many.
Yeah. Well, we would do like a pre-recording and stuff to make sure we wouldn't even miss those. Yeah. But I appreciate that. And PJNet is growing. You can find them obviously online, and they have a Rumble channel that's growing now that we've kind of got away from the censoring YouTube lifestyle going on.
Yeah. I wish they'd have kicked me off sooner.
Yeah. I know. So we have a free love assessment you can take, and you can go to IamLoveBuilders.com and take that free love assessment. That'll help identify your love persona or your love language, if you will. It also help us if we're going to connect to do any kind of coaching with you. Again, our book is out, and that is built.
Divorce Proofing Your Marriage.
Thank you. Divorce Proofing Your Marriage. It is out on Amazon.com. You can check that out, and we will see you on the next show. I appreciate you guys. Take care.